What if I told you this simple, innocuous-looking device could predict your death? Not by some magical means or technological wizardry, but by simply feeling the air. Now you're asking yourself, the red spheres, are they the key? Well, yes and no. But to truly understand the nature and the necessity of this widget, we need to return to the birth of the atomic age. In July of 1945, the US tested their first nuclear weapon, the Gadget. All the hypothetical data regarding the true force of nuclear power became reality that day, ushering mankind into a new era. And it all started with this simple yellow cake. Uranium, the ore that would allow the creation of nuclear reactors and bombs, was discovered in 1789 by Heinrich Klaproth, but it would take almost another 100 years until its radioactive properties would be detected. From this point, the advancements and uses of this unique ore would snowball through the efforts of Pierre and Marie Curie, starting with their paper on December 26, 1898, about radium and radioactivity. Marie Curie would go on to win the Nobel Prize for her research, but she would end up paying the ultimate price. This very same groundwork would provide us with the X-ray and the beginnings of nuclear medicine. Unfortunately, the damaging effects of radiation weren't understood yet. Curie was known to carry glowing vials of radioactive material with her and performing X-rays with no protection, eventually leading to her body becoming so heavily irradiated that her and her husband's remains are stored in lead-lined coffins as they still emit radiation to this day. Even her notes and cookbooks are sealed away as they remain highly radioactive. It wasn't just her that was fascinated. Entrepreneurs and snake oil salesmen latched onto the idea that radiation could have healing properties.
Was made just radioactive enough to register on a Geiger counter.
Did they truly believe what they sold? Perhaps not, but a quick buck is a buck.
Skin creams, enriched waters, toothpastes, and even sand flooded the market. It was all the rage. And it probably did great work, until your skin fell off. Radithor became popular to cure, well, whatever ails you, as well as revigorator pots, because who doesn't like a little radon in their water? Though they thankfully went out of fashion soon after, not everyone is glad of that. You can still visit the Tamagawa hot springs in Japan if you'd like a little radiation therapy. Or even closer to home, look on eBay for anti-5G devices. Believe it or not, but some release small doses of radiation in order to
combat radiation? Over the next 40 years, research into the uses of nuclear elements would continue at a relatively leisurely pace. This would all change with the creation of the atomic bomb.
During World War II, the Germans had also looked into an atomic bomb, but it was the Americans who would finally unleash its destructive power. With the battle in the Pacific Theater proving slow and difficult, an alternate solution was presented that could save the lives of thousands of US infantrymen. A bomb capable of such catastrophic destruction that the enemy would surrender immediately and unconditionally.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
The Manhattan Project, under J. Robert Oppenheimer, set out to create such a device. On the 6th and 9th of August 1945, Little Boy and Fat Man were dropped in the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, respectively. The resulting destruction was total. On the 15th of August, the Japanese emperor surrendered. The world now had a taste of the power of the atom, but rather than be cowed by it, it became the catalyst for nuclear proliferation.
I went to Vienna to meet the leader of the Soviet Union, Mr. Khrushchev.
If you have the bomb, I need the bomb to protect me from your bomb. Nuclear proliferation in the atomic age had dawned. It wasn't all doom and gloom, however. Aside from the impending arms race between the Soviet Union and America, this new limitless power source opened the imagination of the average household to endless possibilities. Free energy? With so much cheap power, why even charge for it? How about nuclear-powered flight? Or cars? Heck, why not a nuclear toaster?
It was a time of the nuclear family.
Despite the enthusiasm, there was a flip side. In the USSR, scientists were working hard on developing their own nuclear program. culminating in 1949's detonation of the RDS-1 bomb. RDS standing for Russia Does It Herself. The world now had two nuclear superpowers, and with them, the planet divided. The Cold War had begun. Propaganda from both sides derided the other as being inferior. Communism was evil. Beware the red threat. Those decadent Americans obsessed with wild music and capitalism. Only one would prevail under the eyes of their God. Both sides prepared for the worst, stockpiling massive amounts of weapons. Amongst the most powerful, the nuclear bombs. Fear-mongering reached unprecedented levels. Do you trust your neighbor? That man in the street, he could be a red sympathizer. Spies everywhere. Trust no one. In conflict zones around the world, this Cold War became decidedly hot. The Korean War, Vietnam War, and the Cuban Missile Crisis escalated the world to the brink of nuclear catastrophe. Scientists theorize a doomsday clock, an imaginary device showing how close mankind was to destruction. It was set to 2 minutes to midnight. Interestingly enough, the clock is now at its closest to midnight since it was created. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has brought us to 90 seconds until midnight.
Back in the 50s and the 60s, the Soviet Union posed an imminent threat. Both sides had escalated to what seemed like a point of no return.
Defcon was a measurement system for the alert level of the US Armed Forces. Defcon 1 being imminent nuclear war, and 5 normal readiness. At the peak of the Cuban Missile Crisis, America was at Defcon 2. Next step, nuclear war. But America wasn't unprepared for such an eventuality. In fact, they had been preparing for doomsday since the outset of the atomic age. Recommended by television and used by the president himself, the fallout shelter. In the event of a nuclear attack, these underground bunkers would provide shelter from the blast and also safety from the radioactive fallout, until above ground was deemed safe once again. Thousands of underground basements were built or converted to provide safety and supplies to a population now surviving under a radioactive surface. Even homeowners were encouraged to build their own bunkers with simple yet effective means. Thick concrete or earthen walls would reduce the radiation by a factor of 1,000 to safe, livable limits. Blast doors were installed that could flex upon the detonation of the bombs above and then return to shape after. Within, an array of tools and supplies to last for weeks, months, or even years. Food stock that wouldn't go off, water and air filtration systems, tools like radios, shovels, and something to measure the surface radiation levels. A KFM, Curie fallout meter, could be built with a few simple parts and provide a radiation readout accuracy of about 75%. But a well-prepared survivalist would have a radiation meter ready to go. A device such as the nu-klear fallout detector, a must for every household. Designed sometime in the late 50s to early 60s, this simple yet elegant device was able to provide a clear visual representation of the amount of radiation still in the air. The device would be shaken, creating static electricity within the inner tube which housed the red balls. This would cause the balls to cling to the surface of the tube. Radiation ionizes the air, which in turn would cause the red balls to fall to the bottom. Over how long a period of time this would take would depend on the amount of radiation. This one claims to be built by Minuteman Industries, but the paperwork suggests an Aladon corporation. You would take the device up to the surface and leave it on the ground, checking how long the balls stayed up. 5 minutes was the minimum, but it wasn't really safe. The instructions read, "You may risk exposure for a few minutes if you are faced with an emergency that cannot wait another day." What would you do if the balls fell almost immediately? As the weapons race continued, it soon became apparent that both superpowers were embarking on a dangerous road which had only one outcome. Mutually assured destruction, MAD, was the only thing keeping both sides in check. If one country attacked, the retaliation from the other would be so devastating as to ensure the complete annihilation of both. Fortunately, cooler heads eventually prevailed with the SALT I and II agreements, where both sides agreed to limit their nuclear capabilities. The end finally came with the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, and the end of the Cold War. The immense energy of uranium put us on a path of incredible development, but also devastating destruction. As a testament to mankind, we somehow came out the other end with the only bombs ever being dropped in anger being the very first. As advancements continue to take shape, we can only guess at what new wonders nuclear energy will present next. But I wouldn't abandon that old fallout shelter just yet. To this day, there are at least 3 missing American nuclear bombs.
As for missing Soviet nukes, your guess is as good as mine. We apologize for the delay in getting this video finished. Life has a tendency to get in the way sometimes. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe, like, and share. And don't forget.
Remember what to do, friends. Now tell me right out loud. What are you supposed to do when you see the flash? Duck and cover. Duck